Me and my family started bringing up random stories, and my mom reminded me of a creepy thing that happened when I was about 7 or 8, so I thought I'd share. This was back when I lived in the city, but now I live in the suburbs. Me and my mom were going to the dollar store because she wanted to get cheap decorations, but I don't remember what holiday was coming up. Anyway, we walked into the store and she was grabbing decorations and putting them into her cart. I was getting antsy, so she told me I could go to the toy aisle and get something, but only one thing. She made very clear. I happily ran to the toy section and began looking at all the Barbies I could choose from. As I'm looking, I could tell there was someone behind me, so I moved forward because I thought I was blocking the aisle. The person didn't move. I turned and saw an older man with a balding head and a reddish-brown beard staring at me. He didn't see anything, and neither did I. He just stared like he was angry with me, like he was glaring at me. He reached his hand out and put it on my shoulder. I froze. I was a very shy kid, so I turned bright red, grabbed a random Barbie, broke free, and ran back to my mom. I didn't tell her what happened, I just stood with her as she continued to shop. I kept looking around because I became very paranoid. What did I do? Was he mad? I didn't understand what just happened. But my 8-year-old mind started to forget it while my mom continued shopping. When she was done, we headed over to the checkout and got in line. I was looking at my Barbie blissfully when I saw that man get in the line next to us. The way dollar store lines are set up, there are 2 lines next to each other, with 2 checkout desks facing each other. That made no sense, but I can't find a picture. The point is, he's only a few feet away from me. I start feeling uncomfortable because this man is staring at me again. He is in line with his things, but he never breaks his stare on me, even when the line is moved. The way he stared gave me the chills. I felt my heart pounding in my chest. I started to tear up because I was very sensitive, and I started getting freaked out. My mom noticed that I was upset and asked what was wrong. I didn't see anything, but she looked over and saw the man staring a hole through me. His expression was now more of a, "I'm going to cook you and eat you for dinner" stare, and even my 8-year-old mind knew it wasn't good. My mom looked nervous and put me on the opposite side of her. She told me to ignore him because he was a pervert, and she wasn't quiet about it either. I just listened to my mom, and we finally were next to check out of the store. But sadly, so was he in his line. My mom quickly paid, and we started speed walking to our car. I could tell she was creeped out by the man too, and she kept looking behind her as we walked. We get into the parking lot, and of course, that man is following behind. Now, my mom isn't shy at all. She will make a scene, and not even care. She is tough, so she turned around and said, "Hey pervert, why don't you fuck off and stop staring at my daughter?" Now, my mom is going to get herself in trouble one of these days because she didn't know if that man had a gun or what. Like, she should be more careful with what she says. But oh well. Go, Mom. Anyway, the guy stopped walking, but kept staring so intensely. It was insane how well I remember his face, now that I think of it. This psycho then decided to put his hand either down his pants or on his crotch, I can't remember. My mom gave him the finger, then got to her car and we quickly got in it. The man was still standing in the same spot, not moving. He was in the middle of the road we needed to drive down, so my mom drove her car up to him and began beeping obnoxiously. Still didn't move. My mom flew past him, just missing him, and took a deep breath once we left. I remember what she told me when we were finally relaxed in the car, and it's basically when I learned what a child molester is. I asked her why he was staring at me like that, and she said, because he's a pervert who likes little girls. I didn't get what she meant. I obviously didn't know she meant sexually. So I asked why he liked little girls, and she said, because he's a pedophile who will do bad things to you, so never ever talk to strangers or go off with strangers. Do you understand? I nodded, and that was it. It was just such an odd experience. Was he a pedophile? Was he mentally ill? What did he want to do with me? I don't want to label him a pedophile without proof, but the way he looked at me makes me think he might have been. I have no idea, so creepy dollar store guy, let's not meet again. Our middle school always fascinated my friends and I. It was the perfect place for late night nonsense and visually reconstructing old lost memories of innocence and discovery. Pfft, who am I kidding? We just loved to dick around and longboard off the steadily declining concrete. The school was mainly outdoors. We also fairly enjoyed climbing onto window ledges onto the 40-foot tall rooftop, where a secured section of generators rested. This was our main hideout during after hours, and one we imagined would keep us safe in the event of a zombie apocalypse. The school itself was gated, although we could easily climb over it and begin our mischief. My group of about 5 bro friends and I were seniors in high school at the time, and on New Year's Eve we decided it would be really noteworthy to camp out on the top of the middle school roofs during their winter shutdown. There would be no security and no risk of getting caught while resting in the section of generators that was blocked by shorter walls. We even thought that drinking to our heart's goddamn content would surely fasten us for the new 2014 year. It was set to happen. We planned out what we were gonna bring, where we were gonna set up our sleeping bags the whole night. Everything was going to work out, and honestly, I was just excited that this was how an overall shitty year was going to end. With my bros and I drunk out of our minds on top of our old pointless middle school, we probably looked like a bunch of tools walking along the side street of the school's entrance, what with all our camping gear, bags and flashlights. Keep in mind that this was somewhat of a bourgeoisie town, city, so there was no area in sight where we looked like we fit in. It was alright though, as there weren't as many cars on the road because pretty much everyone was partying. Getting over the large metal gate of the school was easy as always. Getting on the roof of the large library building was always a bit tricky though, as the ledges made violent clank-clank noises as we stepped on them. We had to help pull each other up and throw our baggage as hard as we could to overcome the initial 15-foot structure. Once everything was on top, we went to action. We grabbed our bags, climbed over another shorter structure to the generator barrier, as I mentioned, and dumped all of our items into a pile. No organization whatsoever. No fucks. Everything was left as it was, and our group decided that we would get more organized, where everyone was sleeping when it was appropriate. We all helped each other down from the roof, and half of us split up to get a few bottles of alcohol. The rest of us just chilled at the nearby park outside of the gates, on the east side of the campus. Yes, campus. This school was pretty huge. Turns out my friend Ronald had his own stash of Sky, so we pre-gamed for the time being. Moments went by and our other half of the group returned with said beautiful beverages, and we were ready to fucking rage. On top of the roofs, that is. Good idea? Probably not, but we were naive and wanted this to be a night we would most certainly forget. Stupidity ensued and we backpacked those motherfucking 40s and climbed onto the generator barrier structure that we had before just dumped all of our items. This is when shit goes down. To our discovery, our sleeping bags, snacks, and Bear Grylls knows what else were not simply dumped in a pile, but rather stacked very neatly over the 5-foot generators themselves. The sleeping bags in particular were folded and zipped up. All of them. Nothing was stolen, as far as we know, and we did double check. Our group began to freak the fuck out. We simply resorted to blaming each other for pulling something like this, and demanded that one of us claim to be the best prankster of 2013, right before midnight. Sadly, all of our stories checked out, and they should have. First off, we have to help each other get up and down. Not one of us could simply get up on the roof by ourselves except for Sean, who has had a lot of practice doing so, I might add. But he was with us while the rest were securing the alcohol. Plus, the loud clank-clank noises could have most definitely been heard from the quiet park we were at for only 15 minutes or so. We ruled out security. We ruled out cops. They wouldn't have climbed on the roof and folded that shit. It had to be a creep. We boarded the nope train to fuck that Phil, and rushed all of our shit off the roof. Our naivete got the better of us, and we decided that the roof of the lunch building would be more safe. Clank, clank. Fuck. We definitely felt a presence. Sean had been there a million times at night and by himself. He practiced his parkour and longboarding, and not once have I seen him with that shit-your-pants series of expressions until this moment. Our group unanimously agreed to just call the whole thing off and go to the nearby park to drink and then go home. Needless to say, that's exactly what we did. We got pretty shit-faced, congratulated each other on a new year, and began to stumble home. But I remembered, split second, that I'd left my own longboard on the wall of the lunch building before we sped out. I couldn't say no. I was hammered and fucking brave. I think I had forgot that only moments before, we had encountered a small spook that forced us to leave. I told my group that I would simply grab my board and sail home, and they reluctantly allowed me. It was all me now. With blurred tunnel vision and attempting to climb the large gates again, my goal was just to get in there and get out. I ran, or wobbled, my way to the outside of the lunch building. It wasn't fucking there. You always look so graceful on your board. I jolted out of pure fright in that moment, and looked up at who I recalled to be a 40-year-old bald and normal-looking man holding my board, who slowly but surely was walking towards me. Again, keep in mind that I was smashed bros out of my mind, and what could have been minutes of him walking slowly to me turned into seconds. A big fan. I come here every night to watch you. So graceful. He was talking about Sean. He thought I was Sean. I clearly remember the man saying that he planned to rape and murder Sean, or me in this case, because he had a feeling I would be there that night, because of Sean's pattern of middle school activities. He claimed he was disappointed that there were more of us, but it was nothing he couldn't handle. He said at least I came back for him. No, fuck no. Trashed me did not hesitate and immediately ran up to him and socked him right in the face. A knife fell out and I quickly grabbed it and sprinted out. I have to be honest with you guys and tell you that it was at this point that I don't remember much of what happened. I woke up the next morning with a pounding headache, badly scraped knuckles, and in Sean's house. He claimed I pounded on his window and cried that I was almost killed and such. I told him as much as I could about the man's plans, and the mix-up between Sean and I. Sean may or may not want to tell his side of the story. We'll see. We were very hesitant to get the police involved because just being on the campus during those hours were grounds for serious consequences. It was decided that we would call in a descriptive anonymous tip and spend the next couple of days, of course if the police weren't there, to also go with our full group to see if that creep was expecting us. No word on anything, and we believe he'll never come back. But that isn't stopping Sean from never going there again. Allow me to preface this adventure by saying, the person involved in this story is someone I had known for 10 years, since I was 17. We had dated before on and off, and although a bit of a drama queen, in my heart of hearts, I did not believe him capable of this level of shittiness. The night in question, I returned home from work and dolled myself up for a date with an ex. In the last few years, he has been dramatic and stupid and pompous, but he's also beautiful, so I, foolishly, was willing to overlook these detractors for an evening. We met up at a local bar for karaoke. When I arrived, he was at a table of his own friends, already completely drunk. So drunk that when we went out for a smoke, he was stumbling around off balance. Red flag number 1. He offered for me to come hang out with his friends or to go home and watch a movie. Thinking he should probably stop drinking, I said I'd take him home. We got to his apartment where he insisted I drive in reverse for 3 blocks to get a parking space, rather than circle the block. He managed to walk back to his apartment without impediment. When we got in, he started talking about how he wanted to make a difference in the world, and he didn't know where to start, and he just wanted to do the right thing, and how he didn't think he belonged here, and so on. He espoused theories from many religions, though ascribing to none, and talked about how some civilizations believed we came from advanced alien communities that existed before the creation of Earth as we know it. Red flag number 2. He then took me on a tour of his admittedly grand apartment, with its fine appointments and myriad of books and graphic novels. So classy, so well read. Then he poured our first glasses of bourbon. We chatted, and we talked about music, comic books, and the trips we'd like to take. He packed a hookah with some strawberry shisha, and we smoked and talked. He continued to pour himself glasses of bourbon. Around glass 4, he started to tell me personal things about his family, his fears and worries, and began to cry. I comforted him, not knowing what else to do, and not wanting to be rude. After all, we had been friends for a very long time, and this was the first time he'd ever truly told me anything real about himself or his life. I didn't want to discourage that. He gathered himself up and told me how much he cared about me, how much he valued our friendship, and the deep love he had for me. Though he is not good enough to be my significant other, he cares deeply for me. This is the kind of unnecessary flattery he showers people with. He is, if nothing else, a master of believing his own bullshit. Red flag 3. Eventually, the conversation turns towards his personal issues again, and again he cried. I suggested going to bed because I was worried he would pass out on the spot. I went to bed and waited for about 20 minutes. I went back to his living room to find him sitting up playing Words with Friends on his phone, seemingly unaffected, and on his 6th glass of bourbon. Red flag number 4. Eventually, he came to the bedroom and continued to drink while playing around on iTunes, and took some kind of pills. He had back surgery and has amassed an array of prescription narcotics to ease his pains. He offered me something to help me sleep, which I turned down, explaining that all of his pain medication depresses the respiratory system, and I have sleep apnea, so I need to be able to wake up if I'm having trouble breathing. Red flag number 5. By the time he gets into bed, he is on what I can only assume is bourbon number 7, and God knows what combination of pills, or what he had to drink while at the bar. It is now approximately 4 a.m. He did spend an hour telling me I am a goddess and should be worshipped, so that's nice, but hard to take along with all the crazy. He was talking all kinds of crazy shit. At one point, he was trying to help me birth an alien. I think that was around 6 a.m. Red flag number 6. Then around 8 a.m. I wake up to him putting a Valium in my mouth. I grabbed the Valium out of my mouth and shouted, "What the fuck is this?" And he was like, casual about it. "Oh, Valium." I explained, like I had earlier in the evening, I can't take that if I'm going to sleep, because it depresses the respiratory system, and I have sleep apnea. So he starts running down a list of pills I could take to unlock me. And I was like, I gotta go. And then he backpedaled and was like, "We can just sleep. Let's just go to sleep, don't leave, blah blah blah." Worst of it is, between the almost entire bottle of bourbon he drank over the course of the night, and the various pills I saw him take, I have no idea if I can 100% hold him responsible for his actions. Motherfucker parties like Keith Richards. And he still has half a pack of my smoke somewhere. Too long, didn't read. Crazy dudes are crazy. Don't have sleepovers with them. And always, always remember where you left your smokes, in case you find yourself in need of a hasty exit.